Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind association. Just like to share a interesting pastime. Lord Brahma one time placed the Srimad Bhagavatam on one side of the scale, and on the other side, he placed all the processes, sacrifice, austerity, all the rituals, every process that existed in existence, he placed on the other side of the scale. And after placing all the processes that ever existed on the one side, the Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Srimad Bhagavatam was, that side of the scale was still heavier. Meaning, Srimad Bhagavatam allows us to fulfill all the processes that exist, gives us all the benefits that we can get from every process that exists. But most importantly, Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the highest philosophy and the highest destination. Therefore, to associate with the Srimad Bhagavatam and regularly associate with Srila Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta purports is very, very nourishing for our kripa. So let us continue with Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, verses 13 to 25. Scheduled incarnations with specific functions. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanyam Atisva Padantikam Vandeham Shirupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Sunyavadi Pastatari Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vaideka Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Loka Triprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavato Prabhu Kalivando Didaritya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prompt transcendental fruit of all the Vedas, O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O light breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varsha Sharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllabus rain pure love God upon the reader. You are always to be so by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bandhu Mat Sangim Mad Guru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Madananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisance to you. Asadu sadhu tadahi natini chochataraka hanamunchakada chinmam premna ritkatayo spura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, give us saintliness to unseen, look to the very fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest in Mahatma throat, accompanied by love, pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadyasya Yatonvayaditarata Charte Sobhigna Swarat Tene Brahma Hidaya Dikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Tisargo Mrisha Damna Swena Sada Nirasta Kwakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because He is the absolute truth and the primary cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of conscious of all manifestations, and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed in delusion as one is bewildered by illusory representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him did the material universe is temporarily manifest. By the reaction of three modes of nature appear effectual, though they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in a transcendental abode which is forever free from illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanaupayasha sabhya kalavasmin yuge janamanda sumanda mateo manda bhagyupadrita. O learned the one in this age of Kali, many but short lives, the quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above always disturbed. Narayana Maskritya Narachevam Narotamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of God and Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, and the mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai Pumsa Parodharmo Yato Bhaktira Dokshaja Hitu Parati Ataya Yatma Suprasiddhati, the supreme occupation dharma of all humanity, that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy itself. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaya Tuseva Ragyam Jnanam Chayada Hoitakam. Rendering devotional service of the personality of God as Shri Krishna, one immediately requires causes knowledge and detachment from the world. Vedanti tattva yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth called as non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Shri Shri Shoshadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punya Tita Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees completely free from all vice, great service done by such service one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranutam Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ryaddantastoya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of God, who is Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor, the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotees who develop the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues and properly heard and chanted. Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Neshtiki. By regular attendance and the class on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service under the person of Godhead, whose praise or transcendental song is established as an irrevocable. Yetavan Sankhya Yoga Abhyam Swadharmam Parinishtaya Janmalabha Parapum Sammante Narayana Smriti. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by practice of mystic power, by perfect discharge of facial duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Akama Sarvakama Va Mokshakama Udaririti Brena Bhakti Yogena Yajate Purusham Param. A person who has broad intelligence, where they be full of material desires, without any material desires or desiring liberation, must by all means worship the Supreme Whole, the personality of Godhead. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Hare Krishna, and welcome again to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your kind association. As we continue to associate with Srimad Bhagavatam, let us first recap for those that covered the section where you last week, Canto 2, Chapter 7, verses 1 to 12. Any specific point that caught your attention, please share that in the chat. Anything that you found interesting. Kamavati Varika Nalini Kanta Prabhu says, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's books are an ocean of knowledge revealing so much about Krishna. By following Chit Mahaprabhu, chanting Hare Krishna, we have an eternal relationship with Chit Mahaprabhu in his abode, and he gives us another relationship with Krishna and Krishna Loka simultaneously. This is very extraordinary and happens now in this 28th Kalpa. Srila Prabhupada gave us this special opportunity. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Yes. 2 for the price of 1. Then you go buy products to buy one get one free, two for the price of one. So that's a bonus. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us a bonus, because generally every living entity has a specific relationship with the Supreme Lord, and that relationship is generally fixed. And when one perfects one's life, one goes in that direction. For example, Hanuman, he is eternally the servant of Lord Ram. No matter where he is, he's always in that eternal relationship. But with the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he gets the opportunity to experience other rasas, as Murari Gupta. And the fact that he is in Chaitanya Leela, then Lord gives him the opportunity to experience other rasas. So we are also blessed in that sense. Srila Prabhupada's purport 273. The antiseptic potency of devotional service to the Lord is so great that it can neutralize the material infection even in the present life of a devotee. A devotee does not need to wait for his next birth for complete liberation. Ki jai. Yes. We have to cultivate this faith in the process of devotional service. The process is perfect. Srila Prabhupada's wisdom, knowledge, and teachings are perfect, coming down in disciplic succession, untainted. The holy name of Krishna is perfect. So we have been given a perfect process, perfect knowledge, but our faith in the process is important and a key factor in delivering the outcome. The greater the faith, the greater the outcome. So cultivating faith. And what does faith mean? Faith means trust in something sublime. How much do we trust the process? How much do we trust Krishna? How much are we able to give ourselves to the Lord, to the process, without reservation? That will determine the result. So do we trust the process enough? Do we trust Krishna enough? That's faith. And that trust is cultivated through association. Good association, strong association. Association with those devotees who have that great faith. And then that rubs on. So it's a cultivation of faith. And if we cultivate that faith, then yes, the antiseptic potency of devotional service will do the rest. We simply have to give ourselves to the process. We can practice more and more uninterrupted, unmotivated devotional service to Krishna and mold our life more and more around Krishna. Practice makes perfect. We never give up, no matter what. We keep giving. We keep continuing, embracing the process. Never to give up, and never to diminish, never to dwindle. We need to keep at this process, because there is no better opportunity. There is no better alternative. If there was a better alternative, then we would embrace that. But actually, there is no better alternative. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Yuga Avatar. When the Yuga Avatar descends, the Yuga Avatar, he has the prerogative, he's given the prerogative to present the best process. That's why he's the Yuga Avatar. So therefore, in this age, even though there may be many personalities that the Lord may send, like Jesus Christ, Muhammad, different acharyas, they all come, they descend, and they give teachings, but no one's teaching supersedes the Yuga Avatar. because that is the prerogative of the Yuga Avatar. And we are connected to the Yuga Avatar of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, we can, without doubt, with firm conviction, say, without pride or without arrogance, we can say we have the topmost philosophy. We have the culmination. We have the climax. We have the synthesis of every philosophy that exists. At least every bona fide philosophy that exists. And every living entity that connects to this path sincerely will be able to identify that and see that, yes, Srila Mahaprabhu's process is the glorious, his philosophy is the glorious, most glorious. Shama says, Hare Krishna, there's a special mercy and blessing in this age of Kali. We covered some of the blessings. Another blessing of this age of Kali, which we covered in Canto 1. Srila Prabhupada describes that in the previous ages, whatever you thought of, you get a reaction for. Because thinking is also action. You got 3 forms of karmic action. 1, physical. Every physical action has an equal and opposite reaction. Verbal. Every verbal action comes back as a karmic law. And thought, thinking, also is an action. That's why most people, even though externally they may endeavor and strive to achieve their goals, but if the thinking is not aligned, if the thinking is not productive or empowering the outcome, they will never achieve the outcome. When your inner world, your thinking is not aligned to the outer world, you do not manifest the desired outcome. So in the previous ages, as soon as you thought, you get a reaction. In Kali Yuga, we are blessed that when we think negatively, we don't get the reaction. But if we think positively or devotionally, we get the benefit of that devotional act just by thinking. So the Lord is not giving us the sinful or the negative reaction, but is giving us the benefit of the positive devotional reaction. This is the mercy of Krishna. So yes, we are blessed. Madhachan Siddhi says, Hare Krishna, the teachings of the scriptures are beyond time. So there are scriptures that come in this world that has an origin in terms of time, and therefore they have a end period. So those scriptures are there. They have existed at a certain point in time, and they will cease to exist at a certain point in time. And yes, there may be specific elements of those, the teachings in those scriptures also that are eternal. But the Vedic scriptures, and especially Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, these teachings are eternal, beyond time. And when we associate with these scriptures, the living entity has 3 qualities: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Sat means eternality. Chit means knowledge. Ananda means bliss. So knowledge is in the center. The more we associate with this knowledge, which is eternal, automatically we will find that as we increase the association with Chit, which is the knowledge factor, quality of our existence, we begin to experience Sat, which is eternality, and we begin to experience Ananda. Why? Because this is the nature of this transcendental wisdom. Mother Sharina says, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisance appreciation. There are many points from last week's class. I appreciate the point of if there is no lust, then there is no anger, demonstrated by the pastime of Brikumani. Yes, the Supreme Lord, he is completely free from all lust, and therefore there is no anger. Conversely, if there is anger, then that would imply that there is lust. Now, anger on a transcendental plane can be used in Krishna's service. So it's not that everyone that exhibits anger has lust. Srila Prabhupada exhibited anger. And he exhibited anger completely in Krishna consciousness. But generally for conditioned soul, when there's anger, it implies there is lust. So it's a clear sign that we need to improve. Secondly, by following the footsteps of the four Kumaras, one can at once see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Person Godhead within himself. We have to follow the pure devotees in order to attain perfection. One has to become pure to see Krishna face to face. Yes, Krishna can present himself before us. That is his sweet will. But generally, if you want to see Krishna, purity has to be there. Perfection has to be there. Free from all anarthas, free from all obstacles. So therefore, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The initial process is really trying to become convinced, trying to surrender, trying to cleanse our life. And yes, it's going to take time. It's not going to be easy. But there is no alternative. There is no better alternative. And this opportunity of devotional service is susukam. It's blissfully performed. Vapu is important, but more importantly, Vani instruction is very important. Yes. We have the opportunity of Vani, we have the opportunity of Vapu when the spiritual master is present. And when the opportunity of Vapu is there, we should try to serve. But the Vapu will not always be there. But the Vani is always there, eternally. And Prabhupada's made it very clear that if you follow his instructions, then you are with him. Fana Prabhu says, the three Vishnus that are plenary expansions to create the whole material creation leaves all doubt about whether or not one has faith in the process and in Lord Krishna. So the fact that all the activities of the material world are directed by these three Vishnus give one no chance of full independence. And therefore, this really causes natural surrender to Lord Vishnu, the supreme absolute truth. Yes, we think we're creating, we think we're doing, we think we're the source. But the only true source is Krishna of everything. So when we make that the priority, that Krishna is my first and foremost personality that I surrender. He is my source. Aham sarvasya prabhu. Krishna says, I'm the source of everything. So when we acknowledge Krishna as my source, then we become humble. Then we begin to surrender. Then we begin to see things in relation to Krishna. Then we don't become proud. So yes, the three Vishnus, Krishna expands as the Purusha avatars to facilitate creation. Prabhupada's spouse statement, one who is not able to make his stool fragrant should not, however, imitate Emperor Rishabdev. the practice of Jada Yoga was possible for Rishabdev and others on the same level of perfection. But such an uncommon practice is impossible for an ordinary man. The real purpose of Jada Yoga, as mentioned here in this verse, is prashanta karana, subduing the senses. The whole process of yoga under whatever heading it may be, is to control the unbridled material senses and thus prepare oneself for self-realization. In this age specifically, this Jada Yoga cannot be of any practical value. But on the other hand, the practice of Bhakti Yoga is feasible because it is just suitable for this age. The simple method of hearing from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. This simple method of hearing from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam, will lead one to the highest perfectional stage of yoga. Just by hearing the Bhagavatam, we will achieve the highest stage of yoga without going through all the austerities and difficulties, challenges that is there. So as I mentioned in the beginning, when Lord Brahma placed the Bhagavatam on the one side and all the other processes on the other side, the Bhagavatam was still victorious. This is the position of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Very unique, very special, very glorious, supremely glorious. So we are continuing scheduled incarnations. We're going to go from verse 13 to 25. Still, Lord Brahma is sharing a synopsis of all the different incarnations. Text 13. Shiroda Davamaradannava Yutapanam Unmat Natam Amritalabdaya Adideva Prishtena Kachap Vapurvida Dagar Gotara Vidadara Gotram Nidrakshano Dripa Rivrarta Kashana Kandu. The primal Lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in order to serve as a resting place pivot for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of the Lord tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation. Although it is not in our experience, there is a milk ocean within this universe. Even the modern scientists accept that there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of planets hovering over our heads, and each of them has different kinds of climatic conditions. Srimad Bhagavatam gives much information which may not tally with our present experience. But as far as Indian sages are concerned, knowledge is received from the Vedic literatures, and the authorities accept whatever without any hesitation that we should look through the pages of authentic books of knowledge, Shastra Chakshurvata. But so we cannot deny the existence of the milk ocean as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam unless and until we have experientially seen all the planets hovering in space. Since such an experiment is not possible, naturally we have to accept the statement of the Srimad Bhagavatam as it is because it is so accepted by the spiritual leaders like Sri Raswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, and others. So this is one point Srila Prabhupada would often use when Srila Prabhupada is speaking to the scientists. Srila Prabhupada asked them, who's God? There's a group of intellectuals, scientists sitting. And they all said they don't know. So then Prabhupada said, Krishna is God. And nobody could argue back. Why? Because they just established on the first question that they didn't know. So if you don't know, and then I tell you Krishna is God, you can't say no. Krishna is not God, because you don't know. You can only object, yes, Krishna is not God, actually so-and-so is God. Why? Because I know that person, man, he's God. So Prabhupada is also making the same point here. You have not seen every planet in the universe. Therefore, you cannot verify that there is no milk ocean, or that there is a milk ocean. And because you cannot do that, you cannot deny the statement of the Bhagavatam. Because most people, if you know, their ears are impossible. Well, what's impossible for Krishna? If he can create a spiritual planet within the material environment, why can't he create a simple milk ocean, or ghee ocean, or liquor ocean, or honey ocean? We have experience of a saltwater ocean. So this is very wonderful. When we speak into others, when we speak into others, it's always good to find out what do they know. So instead of preaching to people, first ask them, so do you know about God? And then when you tell them about God, and then they start to argue, now you can understand the underlying consciousness. Because they're objecting without even knowing. And great personalities, we just analyze from Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj, Srila Gaurkishora Babaji Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, just going back, if we just analyze the lives of these great personalities, if we analyze the lives of all the acharyas in our line, they're extraordinary. They're amazing personalities. With amazing qualities, amazing achievements, extraordinary, pure personalities. Just consider Jiva Goswami, such a prolific writer, wrote over 400,000 verses. And such great personalities, they are acknowledging this point. They're acknowledging the Bhagavatam. Therefore, we follow in their footsteps. Because it's not just one person, we have so many, practically infinite number that have acknowledged, that are accepting. All the personalities that are just mentioned in the Bhagavatam themselves accepting. And here we are with a teeny little brain. And we are so proud when we hear such statements. I don't believe. I don't think so. It's like Dr. Frog in the well. Such a teeny brain, and yet he's trying to. He thinks he knows the dimension of the universe, or dimension of the ocean, and he doesn't want to accept that we are limited. We have our limitations. Therefore, certain aspects of knowledge and wisdom we simply have to accept in a descending process. Now, the beauty is that even though this is descending and we accept, it's not blind faith. It's not based on blind faith that I accept that there's a milk ocean. No. I'm accepting that there's a milk ocean based on these great personalities, based on the position of the Bhagavatam, based on my relationship with Srila Prabhupada and what he has done and what he has given, based on the fact that I'm applying the teachings of the Bhagavatam and I'm seeing the result. Therefore, I have more faith in the Bhagavatam. So like that, it's not blind faith. And as I purify my life, and one day that opportunity comes to see the Lord and you want to validate, my Lord, can you show me the milk ocean? Sure, and he'll show you the milk ocean, no problem, because it exists. It's not like when you meet the Lord and you ask the Lord, can you show me the milk ocean? No, is it okay? It's okay. Don't worry about the milk. No. He's not going to duck and dive. He's not going to stammer and I'll try to see, okay, because if there's lies and you want to see the truth, then the person will try to, divert your attention. If you want to see the milk ocean, no problem at all, because it exists. The Vedic process is to follow in the footsteps of great authorities. And that is the only process for knowing that which is beyond our imagination. The primal Lord, being all-powerful, can do whatever he likes. And therefore, he's assuming the incarnation of a tortoise or a fish for serving a particular purpose is not at all astonishing. Therefore, we should not have any hesitation whatsoever in accepting the statements of the authentic scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is the test of faith. This is the test of conviction. This is the test of whether we understand the position of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because if Srimad Bhagavatam is saying it, Srimad Bhagavatam in the second verse already it is mentioned that it's kicking out all cheating religion. The first verse describes it's presenting Satyam Param Dhima, it's presenting the absolute truth. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva, it's presenting the absolute truth. So the Bhagavatam does not have anything that's false. Bhagavatam does not have anything that is imaginary. It is presenting the absolute truth and everything that is connected to the absolute truth. And when one has access to the Bhagavatam and has that faith and conviction in the Bhagavatam, then that itself is greatly pleasing and peace. Greatly pleasing and creates a peaceful mind, consciousness. It gives one such a surety, security. When one knows the truth, one has a great sense of peace of mind because the foundation of that knowledge is solid. Whereas when one speculates, that knowledge of speculating changes at every speculation. Therefore, it's unsettling, it's disturbing, it's flickering. But the Bhagavatam is the truth. And as they say, the truth will set you free. So many benefits come from just having the surety, having the firm conviction of this truth of the Bhagavatam. There's no fear. When you know, if you're in an environment of unknowns, it's very fearful. But the Bhagavatam is giving you wisdom of that which is known, truth. And therefore, the more you have understanding of the Bhagavatam, it just gives such inner security, such inner peace that you cannot explain to anyone until they experience. The gigantic work of churning the milk ocean by the combined effort of the demigods and the demons required a gigantic resting ground or pivot for the gigantic Mandara hill. Thus, to help the temple of the demigods, the primal Lord assumed the incarnation of a gigantic tortoise swimming in the ocean of milk. At the same time, the mountain scratched his back as he was partially sleeping and thus relieved his itching sensation. So the Lord is performing his pastimes. And he can assume any form he likes because he's all powerful. He assumes the form of a tortoise. Now, for those who have very little faith, and you tell them that God appears as a tortoise, it just goes beyond their understanding, comprehension. Like, really? You know, why would the Lord want to come as a tortoise? Why? Because they are imposing a material understanding on the form of the Lord. Because we know a tortoise is so sluggish, so slow. And what can a tortoise do? It's like not much. So if the Lord takes the form of a tortoise, what can he? It's like such a useless form. But no. The Lord's form as a tortoise is totally transcendental. And the Lord assumes a suitable form for a suitable function. And in this case, in the ocean, they needed a resting place for the purpose, for the gigantic Mandara hill, for churning. So the intelligent Lord took an intelligent form as a tortoise. Perfect form to fulfill perfect situation, or to complete a situation in a perfect way. And we then glorify the Lord as a tortoise. And all the other tortoises that are there in the universe, maybe they're getting darshan of this beautiful tortoise and they're getting inspired. Oh, just see, our brother, our sister looks so nice, such an amazing tortoise like us. Because the Lord is kind to all living entities. 14. Traipishthaporubhayahyasa nrishimmarupam kritva briha kritva brahmad brokutid tamstrakarala vaktram daitendram ashugadaya bipato tam arat uro nipatya vidadaranaikas purantam. The Supreme Personality of God had assumed the incarnation of Nrsimhadev in order to vanquish great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiranyakashipu, who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand by placing the demon on his thighs and piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger and showing his fearful teeth and mouth. The history of Hiranyakashipu and his great devotee son Prahlad Maharaj is narrated in the 7th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. Hiranyakashipu became very powerful by material achievements and thought himself to be immortal by the grace of Brahmaji. Brahmaji declined to award him the benediction of immortality because he himself is not an immortal being. But Hiranyakashipu derived Brahmaji's benedictions in a roundabout way, almost equal to becoming an immortal being. Hiranyakashipu was sure that he would not be killed by any man or demigod or any kind of weapon, any kind of known weapon, nor would he die during the day or night. The Lord, however, assumed the incarnation of half man, half lion, which was beyond the imagination of a materialist demon like Hiranyakashipu, and thus keeping pace with the benediction of Brahmaji, the Lord killed him. He killed him on his lap, so that he was killed neither on land, nor on water, nor in the sky. The demon was pierced by Nrsimha's nails, which are beyond the human weapons imaginable by Hiranyakashipu. So if you think you're more intelligent in trying to cheat the ways of the Lord will come as a greater cheater. We cannot cheat the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The literal meaning of Hiranyakashipu is one who is after gold and soft bedding, the ultimate aim of all materialistic men. Such demonic men who have no relationship with God gradually become puffed up by material acquisitions and begin to challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord and torture those who are devotees of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj happened to be the son of Hiranyakashipu, and because the boy was a great devotee, his father tortured him to the best of his ability In this extreme situation, the Lord assumed the incarnation of Shivadeva, and just to finish the enemy of the demigods, the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu in a manner beyond the demon's imagination. Materialistic plans of godless demons are always frustrated by the all-powerful. Materialistic plans of godless demons are always frustrated by the all-powerful Lord. Those who are materialistic, those who deny the existence of God, those who do not surrender to God, the demonic, they will make plans that are destructive, plans that are against the desire of Krishna. And no matter how sophisticated, no matter how advanced, no matter how powerful their plans look, eventually their plans will be frustrated. We see this in so many different places where nature would show its devastating face. Tsunami, hurricane, tornadoes, earthquakes. You can see, no matter how powerful we may be from a materialistic perspective, we cannot face these natural disasters. And these natural disasters are, a fragmental, a part of a fragmental part of Krishna's potency. Krishna is not even showing his full potency. Just natural disasters can frustrate everyone's plans. Now, when these plans are frustrated, we may be right in the middle of those plans that are getting frustrated. But if we have taken full shelter of Krishna, then it's not that we will not go through that frustration. We will go through that frustration. Just like if it's snowing in Cape Town, we're going to get the cold in Gauteng. It's coming. It's not like I'm a Hare Krishna devotee, therefore around me it's all nice and warm and rosy and sunshine and no, it's like heaven. No. If it's snowing in one part of the world, we may catch a sneeze also on the side. Because we are all interdependent, we are connected. Just like if you are chanting Hare Krishna, you are benefiting the whole universe. Conversely, if somebody is killing mother cow, we're getting the reaction. Because we are all interdependent. So when the Lord frustrates the plans of the demons, we are implicated and we will experience the frustration. But if we are surrendered and we've taken shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, then those lotus feet of Krishna will protect us. And the lotus feet of the Lord will give us the best form of protection beyond your imagination and not according to your plan. But we will have the best form of protection. It may not be what you want or what you desire, but rest assured the Lord knows best. He is the Supreme Lord after all. So whenever a form of frustration comes in this world, and as we discussed last week, Srila Prabhupada said, let's see who can remember from the previous purports that we covered. So keep in mind the theme or the topic that we're talking about, the aspect of the plans of the materialistic demons getting frustrated. And we may also be implicated. In the previous purports that we read, Srila Prabhupada talked about the demons also doing something in relation to Mother Earth. Who can remember? Please type in the chat. What do the demons do in relation to the mother in relation to Mother Earth? And Srila Prabhupada said that there will be consequences. Exploiting in what way, Adelash? Yes, exploiting in what way? Specifically, mining, yes. Drilling, digging holes for fuel, jewels, oil, yes. So this is going on. Even right now, they're busy digging all over the world. And that is causing an imbalance, cutting trees, pollution. It's causing a disturbance. The fact that this is a disturbance means that there will be a reaction. And we are going to be part of that reaction. We're going to be in that reaction. So, the Lord may not give you a peaceful ocean, but He will definitely give you a solid boat to cross the turbulent ocean. And that solid boat is the lotus feet of Krishna. As long as we have taken shelter of the Supreme Lord, then we don't need to fear in terms of our progress. 15. Anta sharas yurubalena pade grito grahena yuta patir ambujahasta artha ahe dam adi purushakil lokanatha tirtha shravana mangala namade. The leader of the elephants, whose leg was attacked in a river by the crocodile of superior strength, was much aggrieved. Taking a lotus flower in his trunk, he addressed the Lord, saying, O original enjoyer, Lord of the universe, O deliverer, as famous as a place of pilgrimage, all are purified simply by hearing your holy name, which is worthy to be chanted. The history of delivering the leaders of the elephants whose leg was attacked in the river by a crocodile of superior strength is described in the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Since the Lord is absolute knowledge, there is no difference between his body, there's no difference between his holy name and the personality of Godhead. The leader of the elephants was much distressed when he was attacked by the crocodile. Although an elephant is generally stronger than a crocodile, the latter is stronger than an elephant when it is in the water. But because the elephant had been a great devotee of the Lord in his previous birth, he was able to chant the holy name of the Lord by dint of his past good deeds. Every living entity is always distressed in this material world because this place is such that at every step one has to meet some kind of distress. But one who is supported by his past good deeds engages himself in devotional service of the Lord, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:16. Those who are supported by impious acts cannot be engaged in devotional service of the Lord, even though they are distressed. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:15. The personality of Godhead Hari appeared at once on the back of his eternal bearer Garuda and delivered the elephant. So the first point Prabhupada is making from the verse as well that Lord Brahmaji is pointing out is that since the Lord is absolute knowledge, there is no difference between his holy name and the personality of God. Krishna's name and Krishna are eternal. Krishna's form and Krishna are eternal. There is no difference. So here again, the building of our faith determines the reciprocation that we can receive. Krishna's name, Krishna's form, Krishna's qualities is non-different from Krishna. When we see a picture of Krishna, because we have experienced, or let's put it this way, because our mind is so conditioned materially, when we see a picture of Krishna, we superimpose our material experience on that picture. We know that in the material experience, in the material world, with material pictures, there is a vast difference between your picture that you take like a selfie and you. The picture is not conscious. Yes, the picture looks like you. It resembles features like you, but it is not conscious. You can eat, the picture cannot eat. You can speak, the picture cannot speak. You are conscious, the picture is not. So there are clear distinctions, clear differences, even though the picture resembles your features. The picture may be single dimension or two dimension, or even three dimension. You are multi-dimension. So in this way, there's clear limitations between a picture and a person. Similarly, your name. Material name, even though it's connected to a material object, has limitations. It's not the same. Why? Because you are relative. Everything in this material world is relative. And therefore, an object that has certain relative aspects related to it has a relative potencies. If I see a picture, it can remind me of the person, but the experience is totally different, or its reciprocation is totally different. Krishna, on the other hand, is absolute. And because he's absolute, every aspect of Krishna, starting with his name, his form, his qualities, his pastimes, everything connected to Krishna is non-different from Krishna. It's very, very deep. This is why anything connected to Krishna purifies. And this is why pure devotees, when they see anything connected to Krishna, they go in ecstasy. Because they are experiencing Krishna, non-different. And Gajendra had this faith. But how did he get to this faith? It was coming from his past life. And in the 8th canto, when we cover the pastime of Gajendra, there will be many, many lessons. Every pastime that Lord Brahma is sharing, which will be expanded in the Bhagavatam later on, is filled with so many pastimes, so many lessons. For example, Gajendra, one of the lessons is we have to be careful. We are in Maya's territory. Gajendra on land is powerful. He's the leader of elephants. He's powerful, but when he goes into water, he becomes weak. The crocodile is an animal of the water. So when we go into the territory of Maya, we can become weak. We always need to understand Maya's territory and Krishna conscious territory. And if we want to be Krishna conscious, we need to surround ourselves with Krishna conscious aspects so that we can stay strong. Another lesson is Gajendra, he learned about the Lord's glories in his past life. He memorized few verses. He was a great devotee. And due to an unfortunate event, he became an elephant. But in that, at an urgent hour, critical hour in his life when he was close to dying, he remembered his past life. He remembered the Lord. And he was able to offer a flower and offer verses to the Lord. Glorification, even in the body of an elephant. So here we see a classic example of a devotee of the Lord who slipped from the path, fell down into a body of an elephant, but he was protected. Now consider if we had to only see part of the movie of Gajendra. So we see he's a great devotee and he commits an offense and he becomes an elephant. We would consider that Krishna is not kind. Just see. He's a devotee and Krishna didn't protect him. But the Bhagavatam repeats and says again and again and again, those who take shelter of Krishna will always be protected. What is one name of Krishna that shows he will always protect? He will always be there. If you depend on him, Krishna, his name is, anyone knows? Starts with an A. Krishna, yes, Achyuta. Krishna is infallible. It's Achyuta. He never fails in reciprocating. So, yes, Gajendra, the king became Gajendra, became an elephant, and Krishna saved him in the form of an elephant. So when you see the full story, then you see how merciful Krishna was. Krishna gave him remembrance. Matasmriti gnanapahamcha. He was able to remember his past life. He was able to remember things that he learned. His devotional service was never lost. And he became liberated. So this is the surety that is there. That even if we slide down, Krishna never forsakes his devotee. The personality of God had reappeared at once on the back of his eternal bearer Garuda and delivered the elephant. The elephant was conscious of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. He addressed the Lord as Adi Purush, or the original enjoyer. Both the Lord and the living entity are conscious and are therefore enjoyers. But the Lord is the original enjoyer because he is the creator of everything. In a family, both the father and his sons are undoubtedly enjoyers. But the father is the original enjoyer and the son are subsequent enjoyers. But pure devotee knows well that everything in the universe is the property of the Lord and that a living entity can enjoy a thing as ordained by the Lord. A living entity cannot even touch a thing which is not allotted to him. This idea of the original enjoyer is explained very nicely in Sri Upanishad. One who knows the difference between the Lord and himself never accepts anything without first offering it to the Lord. So when we accept the Lord as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme source, the supreme benefactor, he owns everything. Everything belongs to him. Therefore, whatever we have is ultimately meant for his pleasure. And we meant to offer that to Krishna. And we enjoy when we give pleasure to Krishna. It's not that we are not meant to enjoy. We are enjoyers. Why? Because we are part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna is supreme enjoyer, so we also are enjoyers. So spiritual life doesn't mean no enjoyment. No, spiritual life means the perfection of enjoyment, the culmination of enjoyment, the epitome of enjoyment, enjoyment that everyone is seeking for. But people are so conditioned, again, the material conditioning places so many limitations on the consciousness of the living entity that his perception, his understanding gets perverted. His application becomes perverted. Or the material nature is diametrically opposed to the spiritual nature. Therefore, because we are so conditioned, we have been conditioned for so long in material existence, we then superimpose those experiences in the spiritual arena. In the material world, if you have a cake, the experience is I need to eat the cake to relish the cake. But in the spiritual world, I can feed the cake to others and experience the real taste of the cake as well. And the mind just can't get that. No, man. How can you feed the cake and also experience the cake like you're eating it? No, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in your consciousness and experience because of mundane consciousness and experience. We find in the spiritual world, when the Manjaris are serving Srimati Radharani to serve Krishna, Radharani experiences great bliss in serving Krishna. And that same bliss, the Manjaris, the Gopis experience. But they are simply assisting Radharani to serve Krishna. Yet they experience that same bliss that Radharani is experiencing. This is the nature of the spiritual world. So yes, enjoyment is there, very much so, on the true level of spirit and the spiritual platform. But for one to get to that level, one needs to understand these basic principles that yes, Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, he's the supreme proprietor. So when I mold my life according to that principle that he is the supreme source, he is the supreme enjoyer, everything first for Krishna, then automatically we will experience the bliss. The elephant addressed the Lord as Akhila Lokanatha, or the Lord of the universe, who is therefore the Lord of the elephant also. The elephant, being a pure devotee of the Lord specifically, deserved to be saved from the attack of the crocodile. And because it is a promise of the Lord that his devotee will never be vanquished, it was quite befitting that the elephant called upon the Lord to protect him. And the merciful Lord also at once responded. The Lord is a protector of everyone, but he is the first protector of one who acknowledges the superiority of the Lord instead of being so falsely proud as to deny the superiority of the Lord and to claim to be equal to him. He is ever superior. A pure devotee of the Lord knows the difference between the Lord and himself. Therefore, a pure devotee is given first preference because of his full dependence. Whereas the person who denies the existence of the Lord and declares himself the Lord is called an asura. And as such, he is given protection by the strength of limited power subject to the sanction of the Lord. Since the Lord is superior to everyone, his protection is also superior. No one can imagine. Sometimes we superimpose our way the Lord should protect. So here the Lord did not necessarily protect the king from becoming an elephant. And if you just had to take that situation, you would say, well, the Lord didn't protect. But then when you look at the full episode, the Lord did protect. In our case, we may find that sometimes we are in danger and the Lord did not protect us, apparently protect us. And we may ask why. And in this part of the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying, therefore, pure devotee is given the first preference because of his full dependence. So, are we fully dependent on the Lord? If we are fully dependent on the Lord, then the Lord will fully protect. We find in the example of Draupadi, after the episode that she went through, she asked the Lord, Govinda, Krishna, why did you come so late? And the Lord explained, well, you weren't calling me initially. You were trying to hold the sari and you were trying to protect yourself. So I didn't have to come. You didn't need me. You felt you were strong enough to protect yourself. She was not fully deep, or she was ex. So understand, Draupadi is a pure devotee. So it's not like she's not fully depending on Krishna, but in this pastime, she is displaying the lack of dependence for our benefit. She's teaching us. Krishna is using her to teach us. She is completely dependent, eternally as connected to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, as a friend. So she's teaching by her example. She was holding on to the sari. I can protect myself. I don't need Krishna. I'm okay. I'm strong enough. I'm powerful. So lack of dependence. In fact, no dependence. You're depending on your own strength. Then you figure out, nah, I think I'm losing. Okay, Krishna, can you help? One hand up. But you're still holding on to the sari. So sometimes that's the case. We have some dependence on Krishna, but others, like 50% depends on Krishna and 50 depend on the rest of other areas. So Krishna also, he'll be coming, but not fully there. Then she realized, okay, looks like that's not going to work. I need to fully surrender. And that full dependence, full giving up to Krishna, that is not easy. Because so many questions can come. What if? What if? What if? What if? What if Krishna doesn't come? What if? What if? What if? What if? So many what ifs come. But that is what's required. Full dependence on the Lord. That also does not mean we do not take precautions. I don't need to do anything because I'm depending on Krishna. No. We still have to take precautions. Because how do you know that Krishna is not sending the protection through aspects that is already there for you to take protection of or protection from? So there still has to be full dependence, and we make arrangements, but we still making arrangements with full dependence on Krishna. And then Prabhupada also says, where's the and the person does not deny the existence of Krishna. One accepts Krishna. We have what we call someone who's atheistic, like theoretically an atheist, meaning, yeah, I don't believe in God. And then you also have someone who accepts the existence of God, but their behavior indicates an atheistic mentality. For example, if I accept the existence of God, and I know that God is everywhere, and I know that God is watching, then I will never do anything at any point in time, even behind doors, that displease Krishna, because I know he's watching. But if I do something that is not Krishna conscious, it simply means I still have subtle atheistic tendencies. That even though consciously I'm accepting that there's God, but my mentality, my behavior is revealing that I still have atheistic tendencies of denying God. Therefore, I'm able to do something without even regretting or without even having any negative conscience, because I accept he's not watching, I can do it. And this is all part of the revelation or revealing that, yes, I still have a long distance on this journey. And therefore, I need to intensify my practice to become more convinced of Krishna, to become more dependent on Krishna, to accept that Krishna is always there, and slowly begin to realize that. When I realize that, when I actually am living that, then naturally we will begin to experience the reciprocation of Krishna, because we are depending on Krishna and we accept that he's there. And we know he's all powerful, so he can do anything. The elephant addressed the Lord as Tirtha Shrava, or as famous as a place of pilgrimage. People go to the place of pilgrimage in order to be delivered from the reactions of unknown sinful acts. But one can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering his holy name. One can be freed from all reactions simply by remembering his holy name. Something's wrong with the statement. How come I'm not free from all sins? I've been remembering the holy name, I've been chanting the holy name, and I'm still sinful. Something's wrong with the statement. Is it? Or is something wrong with my application? But one can be freed from all sinful reactions. Doesn't say one, doesn't say two, it says all. How? Simply. How simply? By remembering his holy name. I do that every morning. I remember Krishna's name. But my sinful lives, my sinful tendencies may increase. Is there something wrong with the statement? No. That's true. But it's the quality of chanting. It's the consciousness behind chanting. It's the dependence and devotion behind chanting. It's the acceptance and acknowledgement behind chanting. It is the devotion behind the chanting. because you can chant in 81 different forms, different ways. You can chant like a Jamil, Namabas. You can chant inattentively. So the quality of chanting, yes, it's simple. Just remembering the holy name of Krishna. Why? Because we already heard Krishna is absolute. So this statement is true. And because the statement is true, and I am chanting, and I'm not experiencing this, then clearly I cannot deny the validity of the statement. Because we already heard the position of the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is absolute and truth, perfect at all times. So it's not the fault with the Bhagavatam, it's not the fault with the statement in the purport. Okay, if it's not the fault of the statement in the purport, then it has to be with me. It's my application of the process. It's the baggage that I bring in relation to the process. Prabhupada gives the example. So in relation to chanting the holy name, who can share the example that Prabhupada gives in relation to the holy name of that validates why you won't get the same result as dictated, as mentioned here? In relation to chanting. Who can mention? Not chanting purely. Yes, I'm looking for an example that Prabhupada shares of how we should not chant. Because if you chant like that, you're not going to get this result. Or how we should be chanting to get this result. Mechanical, not the way of chanting. Yes, I'm still looking right, getting close. Like a genuine cry of a child for a mother. Good. Another example, that Krishna remembers us at the time of our death. Chant attentively, hear chanting to get the result. So right, we should chant like a child, genuine child crying for its mother, because you can get a child that cries that's pretending to cry. So it has to be a genuine cry, number one. Prabhupada said, don't chant like a parrot. So a child can cry, a parrot can cry. A child can chant the holy name, a parrot can chant the holy name. But the effect is not the same. A genuine child can cry. The effect will be different. So we need to be able to chant like a genuine child crying to Krishna. Genuine child crying for its mother. We want to cry like that to Krishna. And we don't want to chant like a parrot without any backing or consciousness or devotion behind that. So the process is very simple. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, learn the art of chanting. And it's not going to be an overnight perfection. Again, cultivating the art of chanting nicely. We cover many lessons in our Japa Shraya course of how to chant properly, nicely, so that this effect can manifest. No doubt the effect is there. When one is chanting, doesn't matter how one is chanting, there is effect. But the degree of the effect depends on us, not on the holy name. Just like the sun is blazing. But if the clouds are blocking the sun, we do not experience the blazing heat. It's not the fault of the sun. It's the clouds of anarthas. It's the clouds of inattention. It's the clouds of improper devotional practice that's blocking us from experiencing the full sunshine, the full glory of the sun rays. So whenever when we read statements like this, but you can be freed from all sinful reactions simply by remembering his holy name, we should still understand and have faith that yes, it's true. Therefore, the fault is, if I'm not experiencing this, it's not the fault of the statement, it's the fault of my practice. I need to reflect, ponder, contemplate on my practice. How am I chanting? What am I doing that is watering the result down? Because rest assured, we're doing something that's watering the process or the effect. Guaranteed. Otherwise, with one chanting of the holy name in the proper consciousness, in the proper state, with the proper feeling, one will get the desired result. The Lord is therefore as good as the holy places of pilgrimage. One can be freed from all sinful reactions after reaching a place of pilgrimage, but one can have the same benefit at home or at any place simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord. And therefore, we need to always remind ourselves, be consciously practicing the process and reflecting and improving. We can go on chanting and chanting for billions of lifetimes and not achieve the desired result if we're not chanting properly. So it's very, very important when they asked His Holiness Krishna Maharaj how to chant nicely, attentively. You saw the video that I posted. He said, when you're chanting, you should see no one and hear no one. Only hear the holy name. So that's a practice. So the holy name goes into our heart and starts purifying. We need to give Krishna the opportunity to come into our life through the holy name so that there will be an effect. And no doubt, even if we chant, just even in our beginning stages of chanting, there is effect. Every single devotee, aspiring devotee, can vouch that they become purified of bad habits without fail. For a pure devotee, there is no need to go to a holy place of pilgrimage. He can be delivered from all sinful acts simply by remembering the Lord in earnestness. So now here it is an adjective. How? In earnestness, in eagerness. I want to remember Krishna. A pure devotee of the Lord never commits any sinful acts. But because the whole world is full of sinful atmosphere, even a pure devotee may commit a sin unconsciously, as a matter of course. One who commits sinful acts consciously cannot be worthy of being a devotee of the Lord. But a pure devotee who unconsciously does something sinful is certainly delivered from the Lord, because a pure devotee remembers the Lord. So premeditated sinful activities are dangerous. The Lord's holy name is called Shravana Mangala. This means that one receives everything auspicious simply by hearing the holy name. This means one receives everything auspicious. Shravana Mangala, not just some things that are auspicious, not just one thing that's auspicious, everything that's auspicious. As we mentioned, Srijat Mahaprabhu's process is Kirtanya Sadahari, chant the holy name of the Lord. Just by chanting the holy name of Krishna, everything is achieved. We don't need to do anything else. We simply have to chant the holy name of Krishna. And if we chant the holy name of Krishna, it includes every auspicious benediction that is there, that is coming from every other process, every other sacrifice, every other ritual. So if we can get the benefit of every other process, every auspicious activity, simply by chanting the holy name, why do I want to divert my attention and resources in everything else when I can just chant the holy name of Krishna? And the holy name or chanting the holy name can never be checked by anyone. Someone can stop you from doing some service. Just like, let's say you're cooking the Sunday feast, somebody can stop you from doing that service. You're making garlands, somebody can stop you from making garlands. And then let's say you decide to make garlands somewhere else, somebody can stop you from buying the garland flowers. They can confiscate the flowers, they can stop you from making flowers, making garlands. So they can, in every service, there is some obstacle that can be there to stop you from doing the service. But in chanting the holy name of Krishna, there is absolutely no way anyone can stop you from chanting. Even if they cut your tongue, you can still chant in your mind. So no matter what happens to the material environment, this process of chanting Hare Krishna can never be stopped. And it's so simple, but it's very sublime. In another place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, his holy name is described as Punya Shravana Kirtana. It is a pious act simply to chant and hear all about the Lord. The Lord descends to this earth and acts like others in connection with the activities of the world just to create subject matters for hearing about him. Otherwise, the Lord has nothing to do with this world, nor has he any obligations to do anything. He comes out of his own causeless mercy and acts as he desires. The Vedas and the Puranas are full of descriptions of his different activities, so that people in general may naturally be eager to hear and read something about his activities. Generally, however, the modern fictions and novels of the world occupy a great part of people's valuable time. Such literature cannot do good to anyone. On the contrary, they agitate the young mind unnecessarily and increase the modes of passion and ignorance, leading to increasing bondage to the material conditions. Same aptitude for hearing and reading is better utilized in hearing and reading about the Lord's activities. This will give one all-round benefits. So Krishna has mercifully come to this world to act, perform his pastimes so that we have something to speak about. We have something to hear. Hearing and remembering the Lord's glories and pastimes and holy name is our medicine. It is concluded, therefore, that the holy name of the Lord and topics in relation with him are always worth hearing, and therefore, here in this verse, he is called Namadeya, or one whose holy name is worth chanting. 16. Shrudva haristam aranarthi nam apremyas chakra yuda vataga raja bhuja diruda chakrena Chakra Vadanam Vinipatya Tasmat Dashte Pragriya Bhagavan Kripayo Jahara. Personality of God that after hearing the elephant's plea felt that the elephant needed his immediate help, for he was in great distress. Thus, at once the Lord appeared there on the wings of the king of birds, Garuda, fully equipped with his weapon, the wheel Chakra. With the wheel he cut to pieces the mouth of the crocodile to save the elephant, and he delivered the elephant by lifting him by his trunk. The Lord resides in his Vaikuntha planet. No one can estimate how far away this planet is situated. It is said, however, that anyone trying to reach that planet by his airships or by mine ships, traveling for millions of years, will find it still unknown. Modern scientists have invented airships which are material, and the yogis make a still finer material attempt to travel by mine ships. The yogis can reach any distant place very quickly with the help of mine ships. But neither the airship nor the mine ship has access to the kingdom of God in the Vaikuntha Loka, situated far beyond the material sky. Since this is the situation, how was it possible for the prayers of the elephant to be heard from such an unlimited distant place? And how could the Lord at once appear on the spot? These things cannot be calculated by human imagination. All this was possible by the unlimited power of the Lord, and therefore the Lord is described here as Aprameya. For not even the best human brain can estimate his power and potencies by mathematical calculations. The Lord can hear from such a distant place. He can eat from there, and he can appear simultaneously in all places at a moment's notice. Such is the omnipotency of the Lord. So Krishna has inconceivable, unlimited potencies, and he is able to do this. Therefore, he is the most befitting personality to surrender, because he's able to achieve such unimaginable activities. Everything else, everyone else is limited by their capacity in this material world. But the Lord, because of his omnipotency, is not limited. 17. Jayan guner avarajo yadite sutanam lokan vichakramam imam yad adatiyagna shamam vamanena jagre tripadachalena yad yantnam rite paticharam prabhubir nachalya. The Lord, although transcendental to all material modes, still surpassed all the qualities of the sons of Aditi, known as the Adityas. The Lord appeared as the youngest son of Aditi, and because he surpassed all the planets of the universe, he is the supreme personality of Godhead. On the pretense of asking for a measurement of 3 footsteps of land, he took away all the lands of Balimaj. He asked simply because, without begging, no authority can take one's rightful possessions. The history of Balimaj and his charity to Vamanadev is described in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Balimaj conquered all the planets of the universe by rightful possession. A king can conquer other kings by strength, and such possession is considered to be rightful. So Balimaj possessed all the lands of the universe, and he happened to be charitably disposed towards the Brahmanas. The Lord therefore pretended to be a beggar Brahmana, and he asked Balimaj for a measurement of 3 steps of land. The Lord, as a proprietor of everything, could take from Balimaj all the land he possessed, but he did not do so because Balimaj possessed all the land by the king's rights. When Balimaj was asked by Lord Vamanadev for such small charity, Balimaj's spiritual master, namely Sukracharya, objected to this proposal because he knew that Vamanadev was Vishnu himself, pretending to be a beggar. Balimaj did not agree to abide by the orders of his spiritual master when he understood that the beggar was Vishnu himself, and he at once agreed to give him in charity the land requested. So here we see how the Lord, even though he is the proprietor of everything, he didn't just come and take, everything belongs to me, I'm going to take it anyway, by force. No. The Lord was very sensible, understanding that no, the king got this through his prowess. Bali Maharaj got this through his prowess. But because he was charitably disposed, the Lord said, I will take advantage of that aspect of charity. So then the Lord asked him for it. And we will cover that in the 8th canto. Bali Maharaj said, only 3 steps, I can give you so much more. And Bali Maharaj and Vamana Dev said, if somebody is not satisfied with 3 steps, they will never be satisfied. So if you're not internally satisfied, externally you can get more and more and more and more, and you'll never be satisfied. Satisfaction needs to start inside, internally. Then whatever you get external or don't get externally, it doesn't matter, because internally you're satisfied. Most people are not satisfied internally. Therefore, no matter what you give them externally, they're never satisfied. They want more, 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 more. Krishna consciousness fills the void and allows you to experience contentment, satisfaction, fulfillment, inner peace. So that even if you don't have external resources, you're still satisfied. Another point Prabhupada highlights is Sukracharya warned Bali Maharaj, do not give him 3 steps. He's Vishnu. He's going to take everything. But Bali Maharaj was a devotee. If this is Vishnu, he's the Supreme Lord. And I'm going to lose everything I got anywhere at the time of death. So if I'm going to lose everything at the time of death, I might as well lose everything in the service of Krishna. This is intelligence. All your wealth, your fame, your beauty, knowledge, your relations, resources, are all going to be taken at the time of death. And I have to leave them behind. So if you're going to have to leave all these, they might as well use them, offer them in the service of Krishna and get benefit. This was Bali Maharaj's consciousness as a devotee. By this agreement of Lord Vamana, Lord Vamana covered all the lands of the universe with his first two steps, and then asked Bali Maharaj where to place the 3rd step. Bali Maharaj was very glad to receive the Lord's remaining step upon his head, and thus Bali Maharaj, instead of losing everything he possessed, was blessed by the Lord's becoming his constant companion and dominant. So by giving everything to the cause of the Lord, one does not lose anything, but he gains everything that he could never otherwise expect. Bali Maharaj could not have expected that he would get a planet that is more opulent than Indra. He could not have expected that Vamana Dev, the Supreme Lord himself, would be his constant companion and dominant. So Prabhupada is encouraging us by giving everything to the cause of the Lord. One does not lose anything, but he gains everything that he could never otherwise expect. If we use all our resources, our abilities, whatever we have been given by the Lord himself in the service of the Lord, we should know that we will never, 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 never be losers. Because when people offer resources, then the understanding is that I'm getting less for me, for myself, because I'm using it for somebody else. But when one offers to the Lord, one gets inconceivable amounts in return. We see that in so many examples. Sudama gave some chaprais, pleased Krishna. Lord reciprocated, gave him so much wealth. The fruit vendor, Krishna gave a few grains of rice and she just kept on giving so many fruits to Krishna. Looking at smiling, beautiful baby face of Krishna, she just kept on giving so many fruits, filling Krishna's hands. And return, Krishna responded and filled the basket with so many jewels. So like that, Krishna awards. We should clearly know that Krishna does not need anything from us. It's not like Krishna is starving. Prabhupada in one lecture says, do not become proud that, oh, I'm cooking for God. Krishna doesn't need your cooking. Like he's starving. He's got hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis cooking for him. He's not starving. And you know what the level of your cooking compared to Lakshmi Devi, compared to the gopis, compared to Radhavani, where your cooking comes nowhere. So if you proud, you're thinking, I'm cooking for God. If it wasn't me, he would be hungry. No, that's the wrong mentality. Krishna doesn't need anything from us. He's not in lack. He's not starving. He's not a pauper. But by us offering our abilities, our resources, which are coming from him anyway, it's an aspect of serving him. He's allowing us to serve him in that capacity. And Krishna reciprocates with that. So we should always try our best to offer everything we have to Krishna. This way, by learning from Bali Maharaj, we would also be benefited. And as Prabhupada says, we would be benefited in ways that we cannot even conceive. To perfect the art of giving, we start somewhere. Start somewhere. One sannyasi was begging door to door, and he came to one door. He knocked on the door and the lady opened. She wasn't happy to see the sannyasi. So she went inside, she took some ash from the fireplace. And she came and she offered him the ash in his stretched chadar, kamsha, sannyas cloth. And he happily accepted. He said, thank you very much. And very happily he left. Because he knew she had started the act of giving. Even though what she gave was not of value, but the act of giving was valuable. She made advancement. So we have to start somewhere. Giving our time, giving our ability, giving our resources, giving our wealth, giving our skills. The more we give, the more we'll be blessed. And this will help our nurture our devotion, nurture our spiritual practice. In this way, we're cultivating our devotional life. It's not static. It's all about cultivating. Best way to cultivate. How can I increase? How can I improve? So by giving, we will always be winners to the Supreme Lord. Putana, she gave poison. She gave her motherly love, even though it was in the form of poison. Krishna accepted the motherly love and rejected the poison and gave her a position of a nurse. Inconceivable. And if Krishna could do that to a demoness, imagine somebody who's sincerely trying to please Krishna. What would they get? What would they get? Inconceivable. Inconceivable. 18. Narato baler ayam ukrama padasaucham apa shikadritavato vibuddha tipatyam yovai pratishrutam ritena chikirshad anyad atmanam angamanasa paraye bimene. Balimaj, who put on his head the water washed from the lotus feet of the Lord, did not think of anything besides his promise. In spite of being forbidden by his spiritual master, the king dedicated his own personal body to fulfill the measurement of the Lord's third step. For such a personality, even the kingdom of heaven, which he conquered by his strength, was of no value. Balimaj, by gaining the transcendental favor of the Lord in exchange for his great material sacrifice, was able to have a place in Vaikuntha Loka with equal and greater facilities for eternal enjoyment. Therefore, he was not at all the loser by sacrificing the kingdom of heaven, which he had possessed by his material strength. In other words, when the Lord snatches away one's hard-earned material possessions and favors one with his personal transcendental service for eternal life, bliss, and knowledge, such taking away by the Lord should be considered a special favor upon such a pure devotee. Material possessions, however alluring they may be, cannot be permanent possessions. Therefore, one has to voluntarily give up such possessions, or one has to leave such possessions at the time of quitting this material body. The sane man knows that all material possessions are temporary, and that the best use of such possessions is to engage them in the service of the Lord, so that the Lord may be pleased with him and award him a permanent place in his Param Dhamma. This is intelligence. And Balimaj could understand this, and he even was ready to reject the order of his spiritual master. The spiritual master is not encouraging or instructing one to serve and surrender to Krishna, then one can reject that order. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:5 and 6, the Param Dham of the Lord is described as follows: Nirmamamo jita sangadosha adyata nitya vinirvita kama dvandvair vimukta sukhas dukkha samgner kachantya amuda padam avyayam tat natad bashato natad basayete suryo shanko napavaka yat katva nani vartante katama paramam mama. One who possesses more in this material world, in the shape of house, land, children, society, friendship, and wealth, possesses these things only for the time being. One cannot possess all this illusory paraphernalia created by Maya permanently. Such a possessor is more illusioned in the matter of his self-realization. Therefore, one should possess less or nothing, so that one may be free from artificial prestige. We are contaminated in the material world by the association with the three modes of material nature. Therefore, the more one spiritually advances by devotional service to the Lord in exchange for his temporary possessions, the more one is freed from the attachment of material illusion. To achieve this stage of life, one must be firmly convinced about spiritual existence and its permanent effects. To know exactly the permanency of the spiritual existence, one must voluntarily practice possessing less or only the minimum to maintain one's material existence without difficulty. One should not create artificial needs. That will help one to be satisfied with the minimum. Artificial needs of life are activities for senses. activities of the senses. Modern advancement of civilization is based on these activities of senses, or in other words, is a civilization of sense gratification. Perfect civilization is a civilization of Atma, or the soul proper. Civilized man of sense gratification, he is on an equal level with an animal, because animal cannot go beyond activities of the senses, and above senses is the mind. The civilization of mental speculation is also not the perfect stage of life, because above the mind is the intelligence, and the Bhagavad Gita gives us information of the intelligent civilization. The Vedic literatures give different directions for the human civilization, including the civilization of the senses, of the mind, of the intelligence, of the soul proper. Bhagavad Gita primarily deals with the intelligence of men, leading one to the progressive path of civilization of the spirit soul. And Srimad Bhagavatam is the complete human civilization, dealing with the subject matter of the soul proper. As soon as a man is raised to the status of civilization of the soul, he is fit to be promoted to the kingdom of God, which is described by Bhagavad Gita as per the above verses. The primary information of the kingdom of God informs us that there is no need of sun, moon, or electricity, which are all necessary in the material world of darkness. And the secondary information of the kingdom of God explains that anyone able to reach that kingdom by adoption of the civilization of the soul proper, or in other words, by the method of bhakti yoga, attains the highest perfection of life. So yes, we talk about civilization, but what type of civilization? Is that civilization based on senses, on the mind, on the intelligence, or the soul proper? We want to follow civilization based on the soul proper. Then we can achieve the highest perfection. One is then situated in the permanent existence of the soul, with full knowledge of transcendental loving service of the Lord. Bali Maharaj accepted this civilization of the soul in exchange for his great material possessions, and thus became fit for the promotion to the kingdom of God. The kingdom of heaven, which he achieved by dint of his material power, was considered most insignificant in comparison with the kingdom of God. So are you willing to sacrifice 10 rands, $10 to get trillions of dollars? Ali Maharaj was happy to give up his $10 of heavenly pleasure to achieve the kingdom of God. Because the kingdom of God is inconceivably, unlimitedly, eternally more opulent than heaven, which is temporary after all. So by us using our $10 of resources that we have, that we're going to lose anyway, to achieve unlimited dollars, residence in the spiritual world is a bargain. That exchange is most intelligent. Those who have attained the comforts of a material civilization made of sense gratification should try to attain the kingdom of God by following in the footsteps of Bali Maharaj, who exchanged his acquired material strength, adopting the process of bhakti yoga as recommended in Bhagavad Gita and further explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. So let us follow Bali Maharaj as the perfect example. 19. Tubhyam cha narada vrisham bhagavan vivriddha bhavena san sadhu paritushta uvacha yogam gnanam cha bhagavantam atma sattam deepam yadvasudeva sharana vidura anjasaiva. O Narada, you were taught about the science of God and his transcendental loving service by the personality of God and in his incarnation of Hamsavatar. He was very much pleased with you due to your intense proportion of devotional service. He also explained unto you lucidly the full science of devotional service, which is especially understandable by the persons who are souls surrendered unto Lord Vasudeva, the personality of God. Devotee and devotional service are two correlative terms. Unless one is inclined to be a devotee of the Lord, he cannot enter into the intricacies of devotional service. Lord Sri Krishna wanted to explain the Bhagavad Gita, which is the science of devotional service, unto Sri Arjuna, because Arjuna was not only his friend, but a great devotee as well. The whole process is that all living entities, being constitutionally parts and parcels of the supreme living being, the absolute personality of Godhead, have proportionately minute independence of action also. So the preliminary qualification for entering into the devotional service of the Lord is that one become a willing cooperator. And as such, one should voluntarily cooperate with persons who already engage in a transcendental devotional service of the Lord. By cooperating with such persons, the prospective candidate will gradually learn the techniques of devotional service, and with the progress of such learning, one becomes proportionately free from contamination of material association. So one needs to become a devotee to understand devotional intricacies. And one can become a devotee by simply cooperating with those who are devotees. So then those who are devotees can engage one, and in this way one starts becoming a devotee, and that way one can begin to understand deeper sciences of devotional service. Such a purificatory process will establish a prospective candidate in firm faith and gradually elevate him to the stage of transcendental taste for such devotion. Thus, he acquires a genuine attachment for devotional service of the Lord, and his conviction carries him on to the point of ecstasy, such just prior to the stage of transcendental love. Such knowledge of devotional service may be divided into two sections, namely preliminary knowledge of the nature of devotional service and second, knowledge of its execution. So there's Sambandha Gyan and there's Abhideya, and then there's the goal. So knowledge about our relationship, knowledge of devotional service, how to practice, and then the perfection. Bhagavatam is the relation with the personality of Godhead, his beauty, fame, opulence, dignity, attraction, and transcendental qualities which attract one towards him for exchange of love and affection. There is a natural affinity for living entities for loving service of the Lord. This affinity becomes artificially covered by the influence of material association, and Srimad Bhagavatam helps one very genuinely remove that artificial covering. So simply by hearing, by associating with Srimad Bhagavatam, we are getting many, many benefits. Our heart is becoming purified. We are relishing the discussion. And here, the influence, the artificial covering that's covering our affinity, our attraction to Krishna due to the modes of material nature. The Bhagavatam is purifying that and renovating, reviving our relationship with Krishna. So the more we advance in Krishna consciousness, the more we associate with the Bhagavatam, we will find more and more our attraction to Krishna is becoming more and more and more. It's increasing more and more and more. It's becoming sweeter more and more. Correspondingly, we lose the taste for material attachment, for things in the material world. Therefore, it is particularly mentioned here in that Srimad Bhagavatam acts like a lamp of transcendental knowledge. These two sections of transcendental knowledge in devotional service becomes revealed to a person who is the soul surrendered unto Vasudeva. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita 7:19, such a great soul fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva is very, very rare. So to achieve this state is extremely rare. In Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, after many, many lives, one comes to the state of accepting him. And that statement has been contradicted by Srila Prabhupada. This point that such a great soul fully surrender unto the lotus feet of Vasudeva is very, very rare, has been contradicted by Prabhupada. Samahatma, Sudurlabha, it's very rare, but it has been contradicted by Srila Prabhupada. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada has created such a spiritual revolution, has started such a spiritual revolution of bringing Krishna to everyone, and not just bringing Krishna to everyone, presenting the understanding of Krishna, the process of reviving our relation with Krishna in such an amazing way through his society, through the wonderful gifts that he has left to the world. And that is continuing to have effects. For example, his transcendental books, his transcendental purpose. So more and more and more and more people are getting exposed to Krishna. If you just consider how many of us really knew who Krishna was before we came to Krishna consciousness. Even I myself may have been connected to a family that was religious, but even then, we didn't really know who Krishna was. I mean, I was born in a religious family, but I never celebrated Janmashtami until I came to Srila Prabhupada's movement. Oh, yeah, we know Krishna is God, Vishnu is God, yeah, we know, but did you follow Janmashtami? What's that? Then you come to Krishna consciousness, oh, Janmashtami, Krishna's appearance, then you start following. I knew Krishna is God. Did you chant his names or what's that? So by Prabhupada's blessings, Prabhupada's mercy, Krishna is becoming more and more. And more people are surrendering to Krishna. And if they simply follow Prabhupada's instructions, they will fully surrender. And they'll become your devotees. 20. Chakram chadikswa vihattam dasha shudve dasha shushwa tejo manvantareshu manu vamsadaro bibarti dushteshu rajashu damam vyada datswa kirtim satye triprishta usatim pratayam charitre. As the incarnation of Manu, the Lord became the descendant of Manu, of the Manu dynasty, and ruled over the miscreant kingly order, subduing them by his powerful wheel weapon. Undeterred in all circumstances, his rule was chastised. His rule was characterized by his glorious fame, which spread all over the three lokas and above them to the planetary systems of Satyaloka, the topmost in the universe. We have already discussed the incarnations of Manu in the first canto. In one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, changing one after another. In that way, there are 420 Manus in the month of Brahma and 5,040 Manus in the year of Brahma. Brahma lives for 100 years according to his calculation, and as such, there are 504,000 Manus in the jurisdiction of one Brahma. There are innumerable Brahmas, and all of them live only during the one breathing period of Mahavishnu. So we can just imagine how the incarnations of the Supreme Lord work all over the material worlds, which comprehend only 1/4 of the total energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Manvantara incarnations chastises all the miscreant rulers of different planets with as much power as that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who punishes the miscreants with his wheel weapon. The Manvantara incarnations disseminate transcendental glories of the Lord. 21. Dhanvantarischa Bhagavan Swayam Eva Kirtir Namna Nrinam Pururajam Ruja Asujanti Yagnecha Bhagam Amritayur Ava Varundam Ayushavedam Anusatya Vatirya Loke. The Lord in his incarnation of Dhanvantari very quickly cured the diseases of the ever-diseased living entities simply by his fame personified, and only because of him do the demigods achieve long lives. Thus the personality of Godhead became ever glorified. He also exacted a share from sacrifices, and it is he only who inaugurated the medical science or the knowledge of medicine in the universe. As stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, everything emanates from the ultimate source of the personality of Godhead. It is therefore understood in this verse that medical science or knowledge of medicine was also inaugurated by the personality of Godhead in his incarnation of Dhanvantari. And thus the knowledge is recorded in the Vedas. The Vedas are the source of all knowledge, and thus knowledge in medical science is also there for the perfect cure of diseases of all of the living entity. The embodied living entity disease by the very construction of his body. The body is the symbol of disease. A disease may differ from one variety to another, but disease must be there, just as there is birth and death for everyone. So by the grace of the personality of Godhead, not only are diseases of the body and mind cured, but also the soul is relieved of the constant repetition of birth and death. The name of the Lord is also called Bhavo Sati, or the source of curing the diseases of material existence. So yes, this body is a bag of diseases. Just having a body is a disease, and therefore the soul is ill. And ultimately the Lord is coming and giving the medicine of the Hare Krishna mantra to cure the bhavarog, the disease of material existence. We may temporarily cure other diseases, but until and unless we don't cure the disease of bhavarog, the disease of material existence, we will be plagued constantly with diseases. So yes, try to minimize bodily diseases, mental diseases. At the same time, focus on the main disease, which is material existence, and try to cure that. Because if you cure that, everything else gets cured. So we want a healthy body, but you may not get a healthy body always, because disease is part of its life. But you can keep a healthy body as best as you can by your diet, by your mindset, by exercising, etc. And in this way, keep a healthy body to practice Krishna consciousness. 22. Shatram Shayaya Vinu Vidino Pabritam Mahatma Brahma Drug Ujjita Patam Nara Kartilipsu Udyantyasab Avanikat Kantakam Ugraviryas Tri Saptakritva Urudara Paraswadenam. When the ruling administrators, who are known as the Kshatriyas, turned astray from the path of the absolute truth, being desirous to suffer in hell, the Lord, in his incarnation as the sage Parashuram, uprooted those unwanted kings who appeared as the thorns of the earth. Thus, he thrice 7 times uprooted the Kshatriyas with his keenly sharpened chopper. The Kshatriyas are the ruling administrators of any part of the universe, either on this planet or other planets, are factually the representatives of the Almighty Personality of God. And they are meant to lead the subjects towards the path of realization. Every state and in its administrators, regardless of the nature of the administration, monarchy or democracy, oligarchy or dictatorship, autocracy, have the prime responsibility to lead the citizens towards God realization. This is essential for all human beings, and it is a duty of the Father, the spiritual master, and ultimately the state to take up the responsibility of leading the citizens towards this end. The whole creation of material existence is made for this purpose, just to give a chance to the fallen souls who rebelled against the will of the Supreme Father and thus become conditioned by material nature. The force of material nature gradually leads one to a hellish condition of perpetual pain and miseries. Persons going against the prescribed rules and regulations for those in conditioned life are called Brahmojita Patas, or those going against the path of the absolute truth, and they are labeled and they are liable to be punished. Lord Parshuram, an incarnation of the personality of Godhead, appeared during such a state of worldly affairs and killed all the miscreant kings 21 times. Many Kshatriya kings fled from India to other parts of the world at that time, and according to the authority of the Mahabharata, the kings of Egypt originally migrated from India because of Parshuram's program of chastisement. Kings or the administrators are similarly chastised in all circumstances whenever they become godless and plan a godless civilization. This is the order of the Almighty. So the Lord makes arrangements to try to bring back real order. And what's the real order? Real order means, real government means that Kshatriyas encourage everyone to be Krishna conscious. They ensure a civilization of soul proper. They ensure a godly civilization. And when the Kshatriyas deviate, then the Lord makes arrangements to chastise them, like Parshuram. 23. Three more verses. Asmat prasada samukha kalaya kalesha ikshvakuvamsa avatirya gurur nideshe tirstan vanam sa dayitanuja avishesha yasmin virudya dasakandara archat. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maj Ishvaku as the Lord of his internal potency, Sita, under the order of his father, Maj Dashrat. He entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravana, who was very, very materially powerful with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of God, and in his brothers, namely Bharat, Lakshman, and Shatrughna, are his plenary expansions. All four brothers are Vishnu Tattva and were never ordinary human beings. There are many unscrupulous and ignorant commentators on the Ramayana who present the young brothers of Lord Ramachandra as ordinary living entities. But here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the most authentic scripture of the science of Godhead, is clearly stated that his brothers were his plenary expansions. Original Lord Ramachandra is the incarnation of Vasudeva. Lakshman is the incarnation of Shankarshan, Bharat is the incarnation of Pradyumna, and Shatrughna is the incarnation of Aniruddha. Expansions of the personality of God. Lakshmiji, Sita, is the internal potency of the Lord, and is neither an ordinary woman nor the external potency incarnation of Durga. Durga is the external potency of the Lord, and she is associated with Lord Shiva. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:4-7, the Lord appears when there are discrepancies in the discharge of factual religion. Lord Ramachandra also appeared under the same circumstances, accompanied by his brothers and his eternal potency. Lakshmi Ji, Sita Devi. Lord Ramachandra was ordered by his father, Majdasha, to leave home for the forest under awkward circumstances, and the Lord, as an ideal son of his father, carried out the order, even on the occasion of him being declared the king of Ayodhya. One of his younger brothers, Lakshmanji, desired to go with him, and so also his eternal wife, Sitaji, desired to go with him. God agreed to both of them, and all together they entered the Danda Karina forest to live there for 14 years. During their stay in the forest, there was some quarrel between Ramachandra and Ravana, and the latter kidnapped the Lord's wife, Sita. Quarrel ended in the vanquishing of the greatly powerful Ravana, along with all his kingdom and family. Sita is Lakshmiji, or the goddess of fortune, but she is never to be enjoyed by any living being. She is meant for being worshipped by the living being along with her husband, Sri Ramachandra. A materialistic man like Ravana does not understand this great truth, but on the contrary, he wants to snatch Sita Devi from the custody of Ram and thus incur great miseries. Materialists who are after opulence and material prosperity may take lessons from the Ramayana that the policy of exploiting the nature of the Lord without acknowledging the supremacy of the Lord is the policy of Ravana. Ravana was very advanced materially, so much so that he turned his kingdom Lanka into pure gold for full material wealth. But because he did not recognize the supremacy of Lord Ramachandra and defied him by stealing his wife Sita, Ravana was killed and all his opulence and power were destroyed. Lord Ramachandra is a full incarnation with 6 opulences in full, and is therefore mentioned in this verse as Kalesha, or the master of all opulences. So yes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and its full feature also appeared as Lord Ramachandra, and through his pastimes, is teaching us not to enjoy Lakshmi separately from Narayan. 24. Yasma adad udad dir udab Payanga vepo margam sapadya paripuram aravat didaksho duresu rinmitatarosa shushona drishta tatapyamanam mara makaro ragana chakra. The personality of God, that Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant, intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red-hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics like sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, have been burnt by the heat of the angry red-hot eyes of the Lord. The personality of Godhead has every sentiment of the sentient beings, like all other living beings, because he's the chief and original living entity, supreme source of all other living beings. He is the Nitya, or the chief eternal among all eternals. He is the chief one of all others, and all others are dependent many. The many eternals are supported by the one eternal, and thus both the eternals are qualitatively one. Due to such oneness, both the eternals constitutionally have a complete range of sentiments. But the difference is that the sentiments of the chief eternal are different in quality from the sentiments of the dependent eternals. When Ramachandra was angry and showed his red-hot eyes, the whole ocean became heated with that energy, so much so that aquatics within the great ocean felt the heat, and the personified ocean trembled in fear and offered the Lord an easy path for reaching the enemy's city. The impersonalist will see havoc in his red-hot sentiments of the Lord because they want to see negation in perfection. Because the Lord is absolute, the impersonalists imagine that in the absolute, the sentiment of anger, which resembles a mundane sentiment, must be conspicuous by its absence. Due to profound knowledge, they do not realize that every sentiment of the absolute person is transcendental to all mundane conceptions of quality and quantity. Had Lord Ramachandra's sentiments been of mundane origin, how could it disturb the whole ocean and its inhabitants? Can any mundane red-hot eye generate heat in the great ocean? These are factors to be distinguished in terms of the personal and impersonal conception of the absolute truth. As it is said in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the absolute truth is the source of everything. So the absolute person cannot be devoid of sentiments that are reflected in the temporary mundane world. Rather, the different sentiments found in the absolute, either in anger or in mercy, have the same qualitative influence, or in other words, there is no mundane difference of value between the sentiments of these sentiments. There is no mundane difference of the value because These sentiments are all on the absolute plane. Such sentiments are definitely not absent in the absolute, as the impersonals think, making their mundane estimation transcendental. So the Krishna's sentiments are all transcendental. Whether Krishna is angry or Krishna is merciful, it's all mercy. The end result is a blessing. The end result is a benediction. The end result is purification. The end result is glorious. That is the nature of Krishna's sentiments. 25. Vaksha stala sparsha rugna mahendra vaha danter vidam vita kakub jusha uddahasham sadyo subisa vineshyati dara hartu vishpur jitair danusha ucharato dishainya. When Ravana was engaged in the battle, trunk of the elephant which carried the king of heaven, Indra, broke in pieces, having collided with the chest of Ravana, and scattered broken parts illuminated all directions. Ravana therefore felt proud of his prowess and began to loiter in the midst of the fighting soldiers, thinking himself the conqueror of all directions. But his laughter, overtaken by joy, along with his very air of life, suddenly ceased with the tingling sound of the bow of Ramachandra, personality of God. However powerful a living being may be, when he is condemned by God, no one can save. And similarly, however weak one may be, if he is protected by the Lord, no one can annihilate him. So, if one is protected by Krishna, there is no question of anyone causing harm. Rakhe Krishna Mareke, Mare Krishna Rakeke. One is destined to be killed by Krishna, nobody can protect. So therefore, Prabhupada is encouraging us, the Bhagavatam is encouraging us, let us surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if we surrender to Krishna, we'll be protected by Krishna, we'll be on Krishna's side, and therefore there is no fear and no harm. Kantarat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande, Hari Hari Bo. Are there any questions or comments or feedback anyone has? Dhanvantari Das and Harini Devi Dasi says, Hare Krishna, I have one question. You mentioned that Sita is the internal potence of the Lord and Durga is the external potence of the Lord, wife of Shiva. Then, can you clarify the point where Sita desiring to become Sita and Shiva knowing that what is going on in the mind, or Sati, sorry, yeah. Can you clarify the point that Sati desiring to become Sita and Shiva knowing what is going on in the mind of Sati did not stop her from going to his father's by a sacrifice. But then, how can the external potency become the internal potency of the Lord? So, first we have to understand that Sati, Durga, Parvati, which is the external potency, is coming from the internal potency. Okay? So she's an expansion of the internal potency. That's the first point. Second point is, when Sati was going to her father, we'll cover that in the Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva did stop her. And Lord Shiva said, it is not a good idea. But she did not heed that instruction. And because she did not heed that instruction, the consequences were devastating. And then she had to take birth again as Parvati. So Durga is the external potency of Krishna, external energy of Krishna. But at the same time, that energy is coming from the internal potency from Srimati Radharani. Just as Lord Krishna expands as Sadashiva, and expands as Shambhu, and expands as Shiva, and expands as Rudra, then Shrimati Radhavani also expands as the different consorts of the Lord in all his expansions. So in that way, Sati did not desire to become Sita Devi or the internal potency. That desire never manifests in her. She's in relation, she always has that service in the form of the external energy in relation to the material creation. And she's completely satisfied in that relationship, in that service. So I hope I've shared a little on that, or clarification on that. Let me know if that is okay. Sangeeta says, thank you for the riveting class. Thank you very much, Sangeeta. Feedback. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna, thank you for the beautiful Krishna Katha. What is the right balance or practical way between depending fully on Krishna, Draupadi's example, versus not failing to act or work on ourselves? So as an example, we have ADT security and we're not sitting back and waiting for Krishna to protect us. What is the practical way of depending fully on Krishna in this case? So this question can be answered like this. You should prepare like everything depends on you, and you should behave like everything depends on Krishna. So you should prepare like everything depends on you. That means you make all the facilities for protection. At the same time, you understand and behave like everything is depending on Krishna. So even though I have all these facilities, which I'm making arrangements for protection, internally, I know that ultimately I'm depending fully on Krishna. Krishna is manifesting in these different facets and features, but my dependence, 100%, is on Krishna. So that's how we make arrangements. We do everything like it depends on me, but we leave everything. Or that's another way. So I make all arrangements like everything is depending on me, and I leave the outcome like everything is depending on Krishna. Because ultimately I know everything else in this material world is fallible. Only Krishna is infallible. Nalikanda said, thank you for making our Krishna conscious journey so beautiful with these beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam classes. Hare Krishna. What deities in Vrindavan do we remember to receive understanding of Abhidaya and Sambandha Gyan? So we have 3 residing deities of Vrindavan: Madan Mohan, Gopinath, and one more, slipped my mind. Anyone can help? Govinda, Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan. Govindaji, Gopinath, Madan Mohan. So these are the 3 deities. And the presiding deities, these 3 deities, they also assist in Abhidaya, Prayojana, and Sambandha, or at least Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana, in that sequence. So Rupa Goswami, Sanat Goswamis, these deities, by worshipping them, I'll try to find, I did a section on this in, I think, the first cantos. I'll try to find that slide again, and then we'll refresh this next week in terms of these three presiding deities and their three areas that by worshipping them, by remembering them, we can get. At the same time, Srila Prabhupada is presenting the Bhagavatam, and the Bhagavatam is Krishna himself, so Sambandha Gyan is there, the process is there, and the perfection of pure devotional service is also there. So I'll share that next week in a slide, and then we can take it from there. Thank you very much, all the devotees, for your kind association and presence. We will continue next week with chapter 7. Vantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gopramanande Hari Hari.